So what kind of advice would I offer to someone looking to activate a park for the very first time for Parks on the Air? Hi there, it's Whiskey 4 Bravo Delta. It's Mark, and I want to answer that question. Matter of fact, I've got about 20 different things that I've thought of that maybe you have or haven't thought of if you're thinking about activating a park for the first time. And I know the first time I did, which hasn't been that long ago, it was really a little bit overwhelming because I knew there was a lot that I had to consider, and I was just afraid that I was going to forget something. And of course, you know, inevitably you will, but that's okay. So I've put together a list of 20 things to remember, and I hope that it'll be of help to you if you're thinking about going out to activate a park for the very first time. And the first time that, or the first thing that I would say is that if you can visit that park prior to activating it the first time, like especially if it's one you're already familiar with, I think that would probably help a lot because it's nice to kind of have an idea of you know, where you're going to set up, how you might have to set up, what kind of antenna you might be able to use, maybe what might not work. If you have an idea beforehand, then you're not going to spend an hour or longer trying to figure out where to go, what to do. So that helps you have a plan. So the first thing I would say is, you know, go visit that park if you can beforehand. And it's even better if it's a park you already know. I would highly recommend that you start with one that you where you've already been, so you'll have an idea. You can kind of visualize where you might set up. Number 2, be ready to bring an extra everything. No, you can't. It's not practical to take everything with you, you know, but at least maybe have an extra piece of coax. You know, maybe even an extra antenna. I carry a backup antenna with me. At least just have it in the vehicle. It's not always going to be practical. You don't have to expect to unload everything out of that vehicle, but at least if you've got that with you kind of nearby, if something goes not as planned, and you know it will, then at least maybe you've got that there and everything, you know. You know, like I said, you don't have to plan to hike with it all. Matter of fact, I would really recommend that for your first activation, you kind of, you know, stick fairly close to the vehicle, that sort of thing. And that way you've got a little bit of a safety net if you need it, you know. It's nice, and it keeps you maybe from being overwhelmed quite as bad. The number 3 thing I would say for your first activation would be to try to think of things that you tend to need. You know, if there's any medications, anything like that, if you've got any kind of health issues, make sure you've got all the medications handy in case you need it. If your eyes are very sensitive to light, make sure you've got some sunglasses. You know, things of that nature. You know, probably not a bad idea to have a little small first aid kit in the vehicle. That sort of thing. Have a flashlight, you know, just kind of the normal stuff that you would normally carry in general. And there's one thing also that I would highly recommend that you bring with you, and you may not have thought about it. Bring toilet paper. That's right, bring a roll of toilet paper, and I've got one, like a little small roll that I keep in my backpack because, you know, bears aren't the only things that do that in the woods, you know. There may not be any facility. Seriously, you need to prepare because there may not be a bathroom. A lot of these places don't have anything like that, so you do what you got to do, but at least you're prepared. Have a little plastic bag, a little trash bag or something like that, you know, so you know, take care of all that. But you know, bring plenty of water, and maybe some snacks, and especially, like I said, if you got any medical situations going on, like diabetic or anything like that, make sure you're kind of prepared to have a snack or something with you. And that's number 4 is make sure you've got adequate provisions, and plan for maybe in case you're there longer than you expect, because that things happen sometimes, and you want to be ready for that. Okay, the number 5 thing that I would really give you for advice is when you're at the park, you need to always be aware of your surroundings. Always be aware of your surroundings. And, you need to understand that, of course, you're going to be out among wildlife. And, and the sad fact of the matter is not all predators walk around on 4 feet. There are some out there on the two-legged variety. Always kind of need to be aware of what's going on. So and I'm not trying to scare you or anything, but it's just a sad fact of the matter that we kind of got to keep our senses about us, even when we're having fun and we're really wrapped up and having a great activation, got a big pile up going, and you're putting a couple of hundred in the log. You still need to kind of observe and kind of have an idea of what's going on. Me, I like to try to situate myself where I don't have my back open, but I like to know what's going on. But that's just me. I'm a little weird anyway. Everybody knows this. Number 6, never leave your gear unattended. Never walk off and leave your stuff unattended, even if you think nobody's around, nobody's watching. It's so easy for somebody to run off with a laptop or a tablet, or even worse, maybe grab your HF rig or something, and that would be awful. So try to have a backup plan, or have a plan for what if I've got to go use the bathroom. Do I have a plan for my equipment? Can I? So it's nice to consider that and maybe set up somewhere close to where you could do that if you had to. And that might sound like a little bit of overthinking, but you'll get out there and you'll understand it. It's nice to know that. So you want to be prepared for that sort of situation, so you don't have to leave your equipment out. If you operate from a vehicle, sometimes that's a really nice way to go, because you can just kind of lock your stuff up in a vehicle and no worries. All right, number 7, bring a pen and some paper, like a notebook or something. Now I tend to not do that anymore. I've got one, I guess, in the backpack, but I don't usually use it. And it shows sometimes when I'm in an activation, like, who did I have on hold? Who did I have standing by? But seriously, if you have that, it'll give you a little bit more of a comfort zone, and maybe you can jot down what you hear, partial call signs, so forth. And of course, if you're planning on logging manually by hand, by pen and paper, of course you'd have to have it. But even if you don't plan on doing that, it's good to have. And it's also good to have as a backup too, in case your tablet or your laptop fails on you. At least you can write down all the pertinent information, and you can even print out some nice. They make some nice templates for call sheets online that you can go download and print those out and have them too. So that's not a terrible thing to have handy if something happens with your login system. Number 8, I think I would say if you're planning on operating phone particularly, but I guess it applies also to CW, not so much to digital, but especially phone. If you're planning on operating phone and you haven't done any contesting, or you're not used to calling CQ very often, from your home QTH, you might want to consider doing that a time or two beforehand, just to kind of get used to that, especially if you've never dealt with a pile up. It'll come second nature to you after a little while. But it's nice if the first time you do that is not at your first activation. If you could do that at home once, I mean, that's always great. Get on there, call CQ, and maybe spot yourself on one of the general clusters or something like that, and spot yourself in DX cluster or what have you, and maybe get a little pile up going there and get a little practice with that. I mean, you know, it's not a terrible idea. It's not a have to do. You don't have to do that, but I recommend it if you can. You know, it's always good to do that, and maybe be a little bit more in the comfort zone when you go out and do your first activation. Because I'll tell you something, if everything's right and the propagation's just right, and especially with you're being a new activator, there's going to be a lot of people who want to get you in the logbook. So you might build a pretty good pile up there right off the bat. You might be surprised how quickly things you know, turn about. So hopefully so. I hope you have a great one anyway. And number 9, I would say that I would recommend that you plan ahead with your logging system, and kind of like I said, if you're planning on logging manually and then just transcribing these into the POTA site, you can do that. It's a lot of work, but you can do that. Maybe have you some good sheets printed off. But if you're going to use some software, decide what you're going to use, whether you're going to use a tablet or you know, a laptop or something like that, and have your software ready to go. Already have your call sign put in there. You don't want to be out at the park setting up your software and getting it set up and all of that. So, you know, you can put your grid square in there for the park you're going to activate, and have all that stuff ready to go the night before. And I think that's always good practice. That way, and make sure your devices are charged and ready to go. And that way, you get out there and you're ready to hit the ground running as soon as you start activating there. Then, of course, you want in advance, number 10. In advance, you want to have your POTA.app account. You want to have your Parks on the Air account already set up before you know, well in advance. Don't wait till the day before you're going to activate, and certainly don't wait until the day of, because it might take a few days for your account to get approved and set up. I mean, these guys, they work hard with the Parks on the Air. They volunteer their time. They're not getting paid anything for that. So, you know, we want to give them plenty of time to get you in the system and get you set up with your call sign and so forth. But you have to have that account set up. I mean, I guess realistically, you could probably set that up after your first, but you know, I would want that already set up and everything ready to go, because you can't upload your log until that's set up. So that would cause you to have to be a few days after your activation before you can set it up, or before you can upload your log rather. So you don't want that. You know, have your account set up on the POTA site maybe a week in advance, and that way you can be ready to go and upload your stuff as soon as you get back, or as soon as you've got internet access. You know, so that's 10 right there. And I'll tell you, I really appreciate, there's some good guys out there that helped me. N8 VFR Dave, really, I sent him an email. Didn't know him from Adam. We'd never even talked before. Somebody recommended that I sent him an email about a park that I wanted to visit, and he was really nice to take the time and give me a little bit of advice on before my first activations. Dave, if you're watching, buddy, I appreciate that. That was very, very kind of you. And there are a lot of people out there, especially if you could look down the list and see who has activated that park. I think most people wouldn't mind the email. I know I wouldn't mind if you just sent me an email. If you're thinking about activating one of the ones that I have done, then send an email. I'll give you all the advice and everything I can, and hopefully some of it will actually be good advice. You know? But yeah, you know, there are a lot of people out there willing to help. All right, let's continue down the list. Number 11. Now, if you plan on working CW or digital modes, definitely test out your equipment and everything at least the night before to make sure that make sure you've got your software or your key or whatever, that you've got all of that working, that you don't have any issues with connections or anything like that. Test it all and make sure it's ready to go, because then that way, if you've got an issue, you can address it the day before instead of waiting until you go out and find out that you got a problem. That's just a real bummer right there when that happens. Number 12, and this is very important in my opinion. Make sure you tell somebody that you trust, somebody close to you, exactly where you're going to be. I mean, if you can text them a pin to your exact latitude and longitude coordinates, that's not a terrible idea either. But at least let them know what park you're going to and when you expect to be back. And God forbid, have an issue or what have you. At least somebody knows where you are or were, it's a good safety thing to keep in mind. Don't ever go to a park, especially remote parks, without letting somebody know where you're going. But that's just my opinion. Just for your safety, you want to make sure that everybody knows where you, or somebody knows where you are. Can be accountable. Number 13. I think it's good to have all your stuff written down, like your pertinent information, and ready to go before you leave the house. Like your POTA park number. That's the big one for me. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what was this park number again? And don't have internet access out there. Well, that'd be terrible, You'd have to get on the air and ask them, can you look up the park number? It'd be embarrassing, but leave it to me. That'd be something I would do probably, but thankfully so far I haven't yet. I generally remember to jot that down on a little piece of paper, stick it in my pocket, and that way I remember. I mean, if it's a new park, might not remember what the park number was, and get there at the park and there's no, got no internet access, no phone connection or anything like that, no cell service, guess what I'm trying to say. So that'd be embarrassing to get out there and not know the park number. So, write that stuff down. It's always a good idea to print out directions, to the park, or at least, get started before you, while you've got cell service at home. You don't want to kind of know where you're going, get close, and you run out of cell service and you can't pull it up on Google Maps or something. So I've been known, especially if it's really out of the way, I've been known to try to go ahead and print those directions out before I leave and have that in the vehicle also. It comes in handy a lot of times when you got to go backwards and find your way out of that place, because you can get into some hairy situations, believe you me. So good one to think about. Have your park number and your directions and that sort of thing printed out beforehand. Number 14. Okay, you're at the park now. Don't ask permission. Don't, and I know that sounds terrible. I don't mean that in a bad way. You don't have to ask anybody permission. You're well within your rights to set up in a respectful manner, respecting other people, and of course respecting the property, respecting the park. Just go in there like you own the place and do what you want to do. Just find a nice place where you're kind of. I like to be away from people to a degree. It's nice when people come by and you can show them what you're doing, maybe get somebody interested in amateur radio. I mean, that's a great thing. But, you don't want to disturb people either, especially, you can use headphones, but again, we go back to the part about being aware of your surroundings. Headphones are nice as far as the noise factor for others, but you also need to kind of be able to hear what's going on around you too. So if you're doing phone, you're going to be talking as well, and it's kind of hard to, sometimes it's hard to be perfectly quiet. So you want to make sure you're not going to be setting up in an area where you're going to disturb others who are out to enjoy the peace and serenity of nature. They might not want to hear us. So try to keep that in mind. Be a good neighbor. But you don't have to ask for permission. Just go find you a nice place to set up, and of course make sure you don't have any kind of power lines anywhere nearby if you're going to throw an antenna in a tree or something like that. But find a nice place and do what you got to do. And you don't have to ask a ranger for permission or anything like that. You do need to know the rules of your park, because they might not allow anything up in a tree at that particular park. Most are okay with that, but you want to make sure you're familiar with the rules there. But as long as you're within the rules and you're respecting others and respecting the park, go do what you got to do and enjoy it. And understand that you've got just as much a right to be there and enjoy your amateur radio out there at the park as anybody. So don't worry about that. When you get ready, got your equipment set up and you're ready to go, remember all your general etiquette of amateur radio. Call before you call CQ. Ask if the frequency's in use. Kind of listen around a little bit. Try to find a nice spot to park. There are all kinds of bands, all kinds of frequencies that we've got access to. So there's generally going to be somewhere that you can set up shop and get going. But now I like the busy bands. I have no problem with the busy bands, because that's where people will find you from the spots page if you want to go to other band, the work bands, for example, and that's good practice to do sometimes. But remember, all your the majority of your hunters are going to be they're going to have the general privileges. So if you set up in the extra portion of the band, just remember the general operators can't work you. So and sometimes it may be desirable to get a little bit of separation, and when you've got a big pile up going, maybe go down to the extra portion of the band and work a few there, and then go back. There's all kinds of things you can do, but find a frequency that's clear, and be polite and ask, and then go on, call CQ and have a blast, and just all the general etiquette and rules, of course, apply to us out at the park, just like they do at home, of course. Number 16, I think we're at now, if I'm remembering right. Number 16, you've got your account set up on the POTA app, and this is a big reason, another big reason that you want this done in advance. If you do have good cell service or internet service, then you want to spot yourself, because a lot of hunters will find you based on the spots on that page. And of course you can use that as well and go look for some park to parks. And really, that's just sort of a new thought there. That's probably a good way to kind of get going for your first activation. Just go through and hunt some others that are already activating, and get a park to park or two in the log book before you take off on your own. There's nothing wrong with that either. We always appreciate that. We like when you come by and hunt us as well. And a lot of times I like to, when I'm getting started, I still like to start out and grab a few park to parks there, and that gives me a chance to scroll through the band and see where everybody is. And I'll tell you one of my little tricks that I like to do. I love it when I get a park to park with somebody. I'm kind of set up and thinking about starting CQing on a particular frequency or whatever. But then I hear somebody say, okay, I'm about to wrap it up here at US whatever park number, and then I'll get the park to park in the logbook, and I've been known to lurk a little bit there. And when they're done, okay, this is W4 Bravo Delta. I'll take the frequency if that's okay, sir. And yep, have it. And then you've automatically got people on there waiting. People that maybe wanted to get in the logbook there with the other operator or the other activator. They're ready to roll with you. So that's kind of a neat little trick that works too. But go through and be ready to roll, but get you a few park to parks in there. So I got a little long-winded on that one. Sorry about that. Number 17, remember, you are in control of your own activation. I've heard other people say it exactly like that, so I am completely stealing that verbiage from other people that I've heard say that. The activation is yours. It can go as slowly or as quickly as you want it. It can last as long as you want or be as short as you want, as long as you get your 10 contacts in that GMT day, at the UTC day, I guess you'd say, at the park, then you're activated. A lot of people will try to get 12 typically, just in case something goes wrong with one of them in the log. You don't want to stop at 10 necessarily, and then one pops out as an error or something like that, and then you only get credit for 9, and it's you didn't get it activated. But remember, this is your activation. You set the rules for how the pace that you want to work at, and people generally understand, especially if you're new. But we've all got our own styles. I'm not really what you would call a contester, so I kind of I'll take an extra second or two. Hey, good to hear you again, buddy. Thanks for coming by. Let's do it again soon. Just general pleasantries, if you will. And others really like to keep going at a good contesting pace, and that's great. And then just whatever you like, whatever you enjoy, and whatever you're comfortable with. But just remember, other people who are hunting you, they'll slow down if you need them to. You just take your time, be in your comfort zone, and enjoy it. You don't have to blister the pace and put 500 in the log the first activation. Just have fun with it, and remember, you're in control. You're the one running the show, man. Number 18, I would say soak it in, and soak it all in, and just have fun. That kind of goes along with the other there. You're in control. This is your thing. Have a blast and really enjoy it, and just kind of enjoy nature too. And that kind of goes to number 19, I guess I'd say. Don't forget to enjoy the park, especially if that's something that you really like. Maybe plan a little bit of time to go out and check out a trail, or if you're at a lake or something like that, fish a little bit. Of course, make sure you've got your license and all the appropriate things that you need, but enjoy that park. It doesn't always have to all be about radio. And remember, a lot of times you can go to these places and camp. Just look at the rules for the park and see what you got to do to set that up, and you can make a bigger event out of it, a whole weekend or a week, and enjoy it. It could be more about, it doesn't have to all be about the radio, although for most of us that's a big draw, is to be able to get out and enjoy the radio out in Mother Nature like that. And the final, and this is, to me, this is the biggest thing of all of it, number 20. Be a good neighbor, and leave that park in just as good a shape as it was in when you got there. When you're done and you've taken your stuff down, packed up and ready to go, look around and say, is this park, where I set up, did I leave it in as good a condition as it was in when I got here? That's very important, because you can ruin a good thing for all of us quite easily. You can get in trouble personally. You don't want to be a litter bug or whatever. Don't trash up the place. Pick up your trash. Be courteous to everybody. Be a good steward of the trees and the lakes and the rivers and everything. And just like I said, just treat it like you want to go back, and like everybody else wants to go back, and we'll have a good thing to continue doing always. Just take care of the park's assets, and they'll be there for us the next time we want them. Well, I appreciate it. It's been a very long-winded video. I didn't mean really for this one to be that long, but that's a lot of material and a lot of stuff to consider. I hope something in that was helpful to you if you're planning on getting out for parks on the air and doing your first activation. And I'm always an email away if you have any questions, and I am absolutely no expert. That's just stuff that I've thought about over the last few months, really, and I've managed to write a thing or two down as I've thought about it. And you might even have other advice. Some of you activators might have more advice, something better or something that I forgot. Leave it in the comments. It'd be great. And I appreciate y'all. Feel free to share this. And like I said, I'm an email away if I can help in any way. w4bdradio@gmail.com, or go visit my QRZ page and contact me there, or catch me on the air. That's even better. And guys, I hope you have a great activation and lots of fun doing this. And I hope to talk to y'all again soon there. And this is Whiskey 4 Bravo Delta saying 7-3.